It's time for Life Engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to build a life of alignment. Joining Dr. Pat is your host, Gabriela Embon, bringing you bi-weekly wisdom nuggets, your step-by-step guidance to build a life of no regrets. Stay tuned as they uncover powerful processes for you to realize your true potential. Are you ready for some magic wisdom? Life Engineering starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome. We've got a great show for you today, and we're probably going to go right up to the 29 because we have got it jam-packed. Here we go. Let go of resentment and start manifesting. And I want to tell you that this is one of the most important conversations you can have. The energy of resentment is so dynamically toxic. It can deflate your dream, make you think you're not enough, carry baggage from multiple lives, but definitely multiple people, multiple jobs. And Gabriela is going to walk us through here. Gabriela, such an important, resentment.
I know, but you see, the title is not just let go of resentment. It's let go of resentment and start manifesting. We kind of want to give this to our brain, say it's worth it. You want to let go of resentment so you can start manifesting. We're putting the benefit right at the title because it's such, as you said, such an important component in manifesting is to actually let go. I think the biggest block to manifest what we want is resentment, but we're going to go step by step. Let's understand resentment first. So what is it? Is it being angry? What is it? Is it a feeling? Well, resentment is a program that we carry in our mind, but is attached to the feeling of grudge that we hold on to after somebody made us angry. You see, when someone hurts us, it's only normal to be angry. It's a reflex. We can't really control it. However, how long we hold on to that afterwards, that's totally in our control.
Yeah.
And it's very important to learn to let it go. We stay hooked to that feeling. Does it make sense?
It does. I want to ask you this question. You talked about something, and you know what happens with stories, Gabriela? I know you know. They start as one story, and over time they build up. They start from a little story, and by the time you really lean into it, they're a gigantic story, right?
That's right, because we're carrying the resentment. We always have to kind of justify why we're still holding on to it. So it does become bigger. It's very important to learn. It's a skill that we have to learn how to resolve, how to release, how to let go of the resentment. Because resentment, first of all, is the block to expression. Yes, it's a block that won't allow us to express ourselves fully and authentically. It won't allow us to live our full potential. And it's also a block to manifest, because when our expression is blocked, we can't truly manifest. When we are blocked to express our gifts and ourselves freely, safely, authentically, we can't really manifest. So what we find is that resentment is such a dense energy and such a low vibration, a very low vibration thought, which takes a lot of mental space, takes a lot of space in our mind. It keeps us in such a low vibration, preventing us from reaching higher. If it's like pulling us down, we can reach higher and create the life that we want. There is a cartoon that I show usually in my classes. People can find it on YouTube. It's called Landlord, like the people who rent your house. And they explain that resenting someone is like letting that person live in your head rent-free. Would you do that? Would you let people live in your head rent-free? But we do that all the time.
Yeah. And, part of that is we don't even know we're doing it.
That's right. We don't even know we're doing it. That's very true. We are not always aware that we resent people. Sometimes we think we already let it go, but the programs are still in the back of our mind, in our subconscious mind. Sometimes we are aware and sometimes we're totally not. But it doesn't matter whether we are aware or not, they still affect our ability to move forward because they keep us stuck in the past. And not only it affects our ability to engineer our best lives, a life of no regret, which that's what we're talking about, resentment, right? Because
Right.
it's a block to engineer your best life, but it also affects our health. I mean, these molecules of the feeling of resentment, which is, these chemicals, these molecules in our bodies, they prevent proper cell communication. And when over time our cells are not communicating among themselves properly, this can lead to illness.
Yeah.
So yeah, we know that the resentment is connected more to the liver, but not just the liver.
Yeah.
So it's a way, as we are releasing these programs and feelings of grudge, we are cleansing our body and inviting health.
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this because I think we're moving into a year now where we're carrying a lot of resentment from the previous years and we're not talking about it. We don't know it. And I think for a lot of people, they feel like I haven't talked about it. I'm kind of stuffing it. I'm behind, but they're not really past it, are they?
We're not, maybe, but most of the time when we think we're past it, we're not, unless we've done the work. Because I think the most revealing part about resentment is to understand that our brain uses it, right? You see, our brain is a problem solver machine.
Yeah.
And it will use resentment to solve another problem. So before we can let go of the resentment, we kind of need to understand, how is my brain using this? What other problem, what secondary problem is my brain solving through the resentment? It is solving a problem, creating another one, which is a resentment, of course. But that's our brain is doing, right? Because we don't solve problems with the brain. We don't solve problems with resentment. That's one way. But the best way to solve problems is with love, with acceptance, with forgiveness. Mm-hmm. So before you can let go, you need to understand how your brain is making very good use of your resentment. And that has to be part of the process, digging on yourself and understanding why you're holding on to it, right? Because one thing is to understand when was the resentment created. And the other thing is to understand why you're still holding it. Because for some people, the resentment was created 20, 30, 40 years ago.
I know. Gabriela, I did part of my research was on broken promises. And I thought I was just going to do a little research and get a little data. I really did. I didn't. Well, the reason you study something is because you don't understand it. But long story short is by the end of almost 10 years, maybe like 9 years of studying and researching, 1,200 pages of interview notes, it was so shocking to me. But people were holding on to resentments that were decades old. I mean, you and I are not just talking about innuendo or guessing. This is the reality of what we do with resentments. My research shows it, yours does. And so let's talk about, before you have to let go of resentment, do we even know who we're resenting and why?
That's right. That's the first question. Because the reason I believe that people stay resenting is because they recreate the resentment with another person in their adult life. So usually we will attract someone in our adult life that we resent. Sometimes it's somebody we knew from before, like a parent, a family member. But for the most, we find that people say, I resent my boss, I resent my colleague, I resent my spouse. Your spouse is from your adult life, for the most part. Some people got married very early, but for the most part. So when we ask, who do you resent? And they tell you, oh, I resent my friend, my colleague, my boss, my spouse. We right away know this is not about them. We know that this person in your adult life is just recreating a pattern that was created early in your life. So the first step in the investigation before we can let go is to understand, why do you resent this person in your life today? Let's say you resent your spouse. Why? And you say, because my spouse disrespects me and doesn't appreciate me. Fantastic. The next question is, when was the first time that you felt unappreciated and disrespected? And then it's important to go back to either that time, it could be a particular event, it could be your entire childhood, it could be the people that raised you. But we have to go back and identify when was the pattern created. As I said, when was the backpack created? Because you're still holding on to it for a reason, but when was it created? This is the beginning of an energetic situation that you're still reliving with the people in your life today, even if the people who hurt you growing up already passed away.
Yeah. I am so glad you're talking about this. I mean, look, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but I want to ask you this question. I was talking with someone the other day, and they didn't say, "Oh, Pat, I resent blah, blah, blah." The way it came out is, you know what? My ex, I can't even pay for my kids' education. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't always come out where you're like, da, 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 da. It's like this life situations you're now in point to some resentment you're holding or blaming or something you're holding on to, and it infiltrates every part of your life. So that's why manifesting and resent, you have to put these together. If you don't let go of resentment, forget it.
You're living in the past. If you don't let go, you're living in the past.
Forget it. Do you know that in the 12-step programs, there is a number one thing? It's the top of the food chain. And it's right. I'm telling you, resentment is the number one offender. And a lot of effort goes into a fourth and fifth step to get rid of it. But we don't do the other part. We don't say, take care of your resentment and you'll manifest. If we don't take care of the resentment, are we going to what are we going to manifest? More resentment?
Oh, you're touching such an important point, especially when we talk about addictions or healing in general. If you don't know why you're healing and what's going to happen after, how you're going to continue your life, what you're going to create, your brain will simply say, I'm not letting go of what I'm dealing right now because I need to be busy. So if I don't know how I'm going to get busy building my best life, how does it look like and what I want, I'll just get busy healing myself. So definitely part of letting go of the resentment is to understand what will you create if you were not resenting? What opportunities? Because this is going to open opportunities for you. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
And it's learning to live your life without feeling resentment, which is not obvious because resentment serves us, which leads us to the other question. How does the resentment that you are holding on to today, that maybe started 30 years ago, 40, 50, how does it serve you today? If you don't understand the benefit and provide for that benefit in a more higher perspective way, more loving way, in a higher vibration way, your brain will default back to the resentment. So we go back to your brain is solving a problem through the resentment. What problem is your brain solving? Your brain is brilliant as a problem solver, but it's always solving a problem, creating another problem. That's the way the brain works. We don't want to solve the problem with the brain. We want to solve it with our higher self, with higher perspective. So we have to explore what's the hidden benefit of the resentment today. What does it give me? It does benefit you in some way. It does benefit you in some way. Otherwise, you wouldn't hold on to it.
Oh, yeah. And, Gabriela, we're going to talk about this, but I want us to really understand the antidote for it. And the reason that it benefits us is I'm going to just boil it down to this question that happens. What would I be without my story? What would I be without my resentment story? You see, the benefit of it is I get to have a resentment story and use that to explain all of the failures or missteps in my life.
That's right.
Right. But there are ways to get rid of it. I'm going to just say ways to get rid of it. I'm telling you, you got to get rid of resentment. But one of them is you're going to touch upon this. And I cannot say enough about forgiveness, but I'm going to let you talk about it.
Yes. Let me just, before we talk about forgiveness, of course, it's the solution for resentment. Let's explore more what you said, because you just raised one point. The resentment can help us to give us an excuse why we're staying small, why we're not succeeding, why we're not daring. But that's just one option. In fact, resentment, it's so well used by the brain. So if we were to explore possible, I want to name possible benefits so people can open their mind to the different new way of thinking, let's say. Resentment can serve us to protect ourselves, of course, from the person who hurt us. If I resent you, I don't need to be in touch with you. I don't need to invite you over. I can keep distance. So it's a way of protecting ourselves. But there are other ways too. Resentment can serve us to cover for guilt or shame. Because if I'm angry at you, then I don't need to feel guilty for what I've done. So when we feel guilty, we see that with teenagers, they feel guilty for something they've done to you. The next thing, they're picking on a fight with you, and now they're angry, right? So when we're angry at someone, we don't have to deal with the guilt we feel for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's another one. Resentment can help you stay loyal to your roots. It could be a family story. I once had a client that resented the one side of the family from her mother's side. I said, why do you resent them? And your cousin, oh, I don't know. My mom always told me that side of the family is that way. Everybody resents me. So it's an unconscious way of feeling that I'm continuing the pattern. It can serve you, and this we see a lot with healers and holistic practitioners. It can serve you to stay grounded and not be too enlightened. See, I'm still human. I'm still connected. I can feel anger and resentment. We see that with healers, they're afraid of disconnecting or becoming too enlightened. And they unconsciously, the subconscious, hold on to resentment to keep a little bit of low vibration. Yeah. It can also motivate us. Especially, you pointed that resentment can be an excuse not to succeed. But we can also, at the same time, use it as a wonderful fuel for revenge.
Yeah.
If somebody rejected you and somebody hurt you, you go, let me prove you. So it could be the motivation that gets us up in the morning and make us keep going and succeed.
Yeah. Look, I coached somebody one time that a number of years ago, that her mission every day when she got up was to check on her ex, to watch, to see if he would do something really bad. She waited every day. Every day, it was the first thing she did. And I'll tell you what, it took months for her to stop that, because resentment can also be an addiction.
Oh, absolutely. I said that on the weekend when I was teaching, because it's a chemical in your body and we can become addicted to it. Yeah. And the problem with any addiction, we always need a bigger dose, right? So we are solving a problem, creating another problem. It can motivate us. It can also give us the energy to start the day. We see that with people that are exhausted or in burnout, that they use anger to have the force to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Lots of benefits to the energy. It can make people feel in control. It can give you a lot of benefits. So really, part of the step of letting go is to understand the hidden benefit and then realize if you can provide that benefit in a different way. Yeah. If it's motivating you, can I be motivated by my purpose and not by revenge?
Yeah. Well, I am glad we're talking about this, because it's in my life, I've done a number of those things you've just said. But the one thing that took the hardest thing for me to do was what we're going to talk about now. And that's forgiveness. I had a total misunderstanding about what forgiveness meant when I was younger.
What did you
think it's important for you to touch upon that now, because people don't understand it. They think forgiveness means you're condoning a behavior of someone. So why don't you tell us about how that plays to help us heal?
That's right. First of all, before we understand what it means, let's realize that forgiveness is the highest quality. It's a divine quality. It's a master virtue. We say that the Creator is in a state of forgiveness because it's unconditional love. The moment it's unconditional love, it means no matter what we do, we're always loved. So there is forgiveness embedded in that energy of the creation. Like you said, when we learn to forgive others, we're not condoning their behavior. We're not even agreeing to let that person in my life. In fact, might not be the right thing to do. That person might be toxic, might not be good for me. I might still keep away. But what truly it means is that I am letting somebody stop running the show for me, right? We might choose to stay away and keep distance, but I want to liberate myself. It's when we say, you no longer live in my head rent free. That energy no longer holds me back. And I no longer let somebody occupy space in my mind. And the liberation that happens, the gift of forgiveness is for ourselves. It's not for the other person. We tend to look at the other person, but that one is actually for ourselves. The liberation that we experience is an act of self-love. The liberation that we experience, it opens room for creation.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about this because as the highest quality, we can get there. See, people say, I'm never going to forgive. I can't, but we can help people get there, can't we?
Oh, people say I will never forget because we're solving a problem, creating another problem. But we definitely can. It's our choice. We have the capacity to forgive. We do. And here's the thing, when we forgive other people, we're more forgiving with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So if you ever question where you should start your healing journey, what should you do to help yourself manifest a better life? It's resentment. It's listing the people that you are aware that you resent. Let's start with what we know, right? And the people who hurt you in the past. But also paying attention to what happens every day, because the people that you resent on a daily basis, they're pointing you to the patterns that are from your childhood that need to be released. Yeah. Who you truly resent. You might resent your boss, but in fact, this is not about your boss. This is about the person that behaved like your boss behaves today when you were a child. And if you heal the root, your boss might actually change. Yeah. The dynamic of the relationship will change. And this is beautiful in couples, right? Because we can shift the dynamic of a relationship in couples sometimes by just working on ourselves. Just that. Yeah.
I want to ask you this, and I know we have only a few minutes left, but I also want to point out to people is you may be sitting there thinking, saying, I don't have any resentment. You may not, but really think multi-generational. Think about how your parents may have been harmed. I'll use that word, or your grandparents harmed. And these kinds of energies of resentment are passed generationally down, and here you are with them. So you may be thinking to yourself, I don't have anything right in my life. However, what is it that you're carrying forward? What happened to your dad losing his job in 2008 and 2009 that totally rocked your whole family, really set your finances off balance? No, it didn't happen to you in your life at the moment, but are you carrying that, right? See, this is the thing we don't get, that resentment has no boundaries.
No boundaries, and it doesn't have to be one person. It could be governments, it could be a nation, we could, right? It could be organizations, absolutely. And you know, I was laughing when you said that, when people say, I don't think I don't resent anyone. The moment we say that, we are basically inviting the universe to show us exactly who do we need to work with, right? The moment you say, oh, I don't resent anyone, you kind of set yourself up for that to come on your face, because the universe will show you, oh, this is what you need to work on. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's when you get the email from your ex.
that's and you thought it was done.
But actually, in my case, I got snail mail in that situation. Gabriela, thank you for today. I want to make sure people know how to find out more about you, and please let everybody know how they can contact you.
They can contact us through coachingacademy.net. Yes, we're starting a life coaching certification. We started the day program yesterday. We're starting the evening program next week. But I would like just to say one more thing. One of the things we come to learn is love, unconditional love, right? When we do that, right, when we love people for who they are, what they are, we're actually tapping into the energy of the creation. and we're embodying, because the energy of the creation is unconditional love. So the invitation is, can you imagine what you could create if you embodied that energy? The energy of pure love, no fear, no doubt, just light and pure creation. And I'll just leave it with that.
Well, what you get to create is a beautiful, beautiful life. You get to create a life you desire, truly from the heart. Gabriela, thank you so much. This is one of those conversations that, boy, when you think about it, there's so much freedom in what you've said today. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Pat.
Thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on a lot here. Please rewatch this, especially on YouTube. Contact Gabriela. Please look at your life and know that you deserve more. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to Life Engineering, processes that combine science, wisdom, and spirituality to create a life of alignment on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Join host Gabriela Embon and Dr. Pat every first and third Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for bi-weekly wisdom nuggets on how to create your perfect synergy between your mind, body, and spirit in order to realize your true potential. For more information, visit Gabriela at coachingacademy.net.